What is going on, everybody? It is Dylan with DFS bringing you a new video. Today's video, I am going over the Thanksgiving 3-game slate that we have, and I love football, so people talk bad about these games. I still love football. We only have so many weeks left before it's over, so let's just enjoy it. Let's get some money on some DFS. So, to me, we only have 3 more viable options at quarterback this week. Josh Allen, Dak Prescott, Derek Carr. Andy Dalton, sort of in play. Jared Goff, sort of in play. That's if they're playing. I'm staying away from Taysom Hill, and I'm staying away from Trevor Siemian. I just don't like that matchup. Honestly, they're home, and I get that. I just think Buffalo's defense is way too good. So Josh Allen playing against New Orleans. Now, New Orleans' pass defense has been bad this year, surprisingly. Even with Marshawn Lattimore, who is apparently the worst cornerback in the NFL. But Josh Allen being $900 more than Dak Prescott, and Dak $1,000 more than Derek Carr, it's going to be interesting to see of how some of these quarterback prices. Now you get Trevor Siemian at $5,600, Andy Dalton at $5,500, and Jared Goff $51 or Tim Boyle $48. Jared Goff plays. There's a little bit of an option there. If Tim Boyle plays, no. Taysom Hill, I mean, yeah, he's there, but I don't know. I just don't like that matchup. I don't like New Orleans against Buffalo here. I like Vegas against Dallas, Dallas against Vegas, Detroit against Chicago, Chicago against Detroit. I like Buffalo against New Orleans. The only team I don't like is New Orleans. So let's get into it and just go from there. So Josh Allen, Dak, Derek Carr, I mentioned the pricing. Probably just because of the pricing and the matchup that I see, Dak Prescott against Vegas is probably the best situation for me. Now, Josh Allen has a very favorable matchup. New Orleans, very good run defense, which means Buffalo's going to have to throw the ball. Not have to, but they are. That's how they win games. That's how they're going to make the playoffs and have a run, is by throwing the ball. They're not going to get there with their terrible run game of Devin Singletary, Zach Moss, and Matt Breida. They don't know how to use any running backs, and that's because none of the running backs do what they need them to do. So, Josh Allen, Dak Prescott, Derek Carr are my 3. Dak Prescott's my favorite play just because of 1, he's got one of the highest team totals. 2, the pricing, $6,900. He's right in between both of them. Now, Derek Carr doesn't have a terrible matchup, but their offense has not played good. They have an upside matchup here against a Dallas defense that allows a lot of passing yards, but Vegas' offense has not done a lot passing. They're just not efficient with Gruden and the things with Henry Ruggs. Now, I do think that they can do it in this game. It's possible. I just like Dak Prescott, especially a bounce-back game after that terrible game last week, and we've seen it with Dak Prescott. So mostly for me, it's between Josh Allen and Dak Prescott are my 2. If you need to pay down because you're paying up for a receiver or paying up for Zeke and Waller, stuff like that, yeah, you can go Derek Carr. You can have a Vegas stack, and it's not going to be bad at all. So those are my 3. Dak is my favorite. Let's go running back. Ezekiel Elliott, $8,000 against Vegas. Kamara looks like he's going to be out again, so it's going to be Ingram. But Ingram left practice early today, so something to look at. But right now, Ezekiel Elliott at $8,000. Very good play here against Vegas. Vegas, just overall, I think is bad, not only against just the running back to receiving back. So Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard, both good plays in my opinion. I think Tony Pollard, just a little too expensive though to try to play at $5,600. If he was below $5K, maybe, but his pricing is way too high for me to try to get him into lines. If you're playing 150, you might have a few, but if you're playing 1 to 5, I would not recommend having any. DeAndre Swift against the Bears. Now, we saw what DeAndre Swift did against the Bears earlier this season, which is nice. In this matchup, we get to look, and the teams played each other. 8 for 16 on the ground, which is, you can see, the lowest is against his 2 divisional opponents of 8. 33 against Pittsburgh. That still amazes me. But 8 against 2 divisional opponents gets receiving yards. Now, the interesting thing that you have to look out for this week is Jamal Williams' probably going to be back. So we saw what Jamal Williams has done in the past, and even in the Bears game, it's kind of the same thing with both running backs. It's just DeAndre Swift gets those receiving yards. So, do I like DeAndre Swift? Yes. Do I like Zeke more? Probably yes. And then I think everybody's favorite play is David Montgomery here against Detroit. David Montgomery finally getting a good game script in his favor. His offensive line, we all know, just isn't the best, but we've seen Khalil Herbert make it work. Now Montgomery has an opportunity to showcase that he still is going to be that running back one. Now, I do think if David Montgomery struggles in this matchup, Khalil Herbert could get a few rushing attempts, especially with Williams still out. You've seen what Herbert's numbers have looked like since Montgomery came back, and it's nothing crazy. But like I said, we've seen what Khalil Herbert's done against teams: 75, 97, 172. Granted, those rushing attempts are up there, but he also gets receptions. David Montgomery can also get receptions. It's kind of the same thing. The thing that makes you like David Montgomery more, especially with Andy Dalton, is Andy Dalton can throw the ball more efficiently. So, David Montgomery at 6,000, it's just surprising, is just beautiful at that too. And then the only other running back that I'm really looking at. So if Ingram is out and Kamara's out, then yes, you get Tony Jones Jr., who's a play at 4,000. And even though it's a terrible, terrible matchup, it's really hard to go wrong with a minimum running back. It's really hard. Like, he could put up 3 points. I get it. But he's 4K. He's minimum. When you get a minimum play like that, you almost have to play him. But to go back to the previous point, is Kenyon Drake at 4,600. Now, granted, Dallas's rush defense is pretty good, and Josh Jacobs, their main rusher, ball carrier. But you get Kenyon Drake in the pass game is what I like. So we've seen it previously. When this team moves the ball, Kenyon Drake gets those targets. He gets the yards, and we can hope that he gets a receiving touchdown. Now, we don't depend on him and should go all in on Kenyon Drake at 4,600, especially with Josh Jacobs healthy. He really hasn't popped up on the injury report at all recently, but Kenyon Drake gets those receptions. So if they can't move the ball on the ground, you're probably going to get Kenyon Drake in there to get some receptions. So if Dallas, like Micah Parsons, is just playing amazing, which he has all season, and Kenyon Drake gets in there to help block and get Dallas to get off a Hunter Renfro or Darren Waller, even Bryan Edwards. But Kenyon Drake, if you're playing 150 lines, I do suggest probably having a little bit of Kenyon Drake just for the fantasy upside. So at 46, almost at the minimum for a running back. And this season, and these games are with Josh Jacobs in, has put up those fantasy points. So should be something to look at. Receivers now, here's where the fun part comes. You don't have a lot of price in receivers. Stefan Diggs, 7,900. CeeDee Lamb, if he plays, it looks like he will play, 6,900. And then every other receiver is below 6K. But let's look at it. This Stefan Diggs, no injury report, no anything. Great matchup here against New Orleans. Great play if you can afford him. Now, if you're playing one of these quarterbacks, so say you're playing Dak or Josh Allen, it's really hard to get to Stefan Diggs. You would have to then pay down at tight end, which there's not a whole lot of options there are, or you're paying down at running back and probably not affording the DeAndre Swift, Ezekiel Elliott. You're going to have some fun with it. But Michael Gallup, if CeeDee Lamb is out, even if CeeDee Lamb is in, Michael Gallup still looks very amazing in this matchup. Almost every Dallas receiver looks good. But Michael Gallup, 5,900. The 2 weeks he's been back, 5 targets, 10 targets. Now I know his receptions per target doesn't look the greatest there, but you still like targets. So you got to look at the 2 games that were affected. The game against Atlanta, where he finally, his first game back, Cedric Wilson still in there. He puts up 7.2 points. Last week against Kansas City, a struggling game as a whole for Dallas. 10 targets, 9.4 points. So this game should be hopefully closer, in my opinion, than the spread. The spread is at, I think, 9 or something like that the last time I checked. But Michael Gallup, very good play here, 5,900, is going to have the better matchups of Dallas receivers. When if CeeDee Lamb plays, CeeDee Lamb's still going to have a good matchup, and Michael Gallup will have a good matchup. So both those guys, very good, in my opinion. Darnell Mooney for Detroit, I think, Darnell Mooney at Detroit. Now, we look at the targets that he got, 16, yes, 521. But what you like here also is that Darnell Mooney is playing a terrible secondary. Darnell Mooney now has a more efficient passer at quarterback. And I say that in a positive way. And Justin Fields is my quarterback. I understand that. But he's just got to get more comfortable, more efficient with the throws that he makes. And with Andy Dalton, he knows how to get the ball out quicker. He played in Cincinnati for years. He knows how to get that ball out quick if Detroit tries pressuring. And Andy Dalton has more just knowledge. He has that veteran quarterback feel. He's not great or amazing or anything like that, but Andy Dalton, I believe, can throw the ball efficiently and get someone like Darnell Mooney involved. Not 16 targets, that is asking for a lot, but getting 8 to 10 targets is very reasonable, especially if Allen Robinson, who looks like he's going to be out yet again, Darnell Mooney should easily see those targets. So a great play at 5,700. Then you get the most expensive Vegas receiver of Hunter Renfro. And Hunter Renfro has just been a consistent fantasy receiver this year. You don't expect him to go off and get you a 30-point game, but is he a guy that's going to get the third down receptions, dependable receiver that they're going to need in order to stay in this game? Yes. His lowest fantasy point game on DraftKings is 6.6 points, and still got targeted 5 times. Last week, got only targeted 4 times, pulls out 7.5 points still. You look at all of his other games, he doesn't have a game above 20, but at 5,600, you get a guy with a pretty good consistency, and if he were to break off for a 2-touchdown game, he gets you those 20 points. Do you expect it? No, that's not who Hunter Renfro is. I don't think that's who he ever will be. He's somebody that's going to be dependent if you need a guy that is going to run a good route inside, catch the ball, get you the first down. That's Hunter Renfro. You don't need him to run 40 yards and try to catch a touchdown. That's not him. So at 5,600, Hunter Renfro is definitely somebody else that I would target in this game. Marquez Callaway, I'm staying away from. I like the other two New Orleans receivers, Smith and Harris. I do not like Callaway in this matchup. Emmanuel Sanders is somebody else that I play. I play him over Cole Beasley. Yes, I know he is $300 more expensive, but the matchup is just a little more in Emmanuel Sanders' favor. Cole Beasley is actually going against the only one on New Orleans secondary that's really good, PJ Williams. So Emmanuel Sanders at 4,800, I think can get you a little more attention, especially people like to pay down for Cole Beasley whenever he's cheaper than Emmanuel Sanders. So Emmanuel Sanders should see a little less ownership than Cole Beasley. Khalif Raymond, I'm staying away from Khalif Raymond, and I actually like Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now, it's been a while since we've talked about these two guys, but we did, like I said, get to see them against Chicago earlier this season. Goes 6 for 8, 70 yards, 13 fantasy points at 3,200. It's 4,200 this week, and we look at Khalif Raymond against Chicago. 3 of 6, 46 yards, but gets 2 touchdowns. 19.6 points, 4,400. So Amon-Ra St. Brown was more efficient for the dollar that you got. He's cheaper again. He's got a good matchup yet again. And Detroit's down even more receivers than they were last time they played. It was Tyrell Williams out. Now you have Cephas out. Benson, who got in just a little bit, is now out. And Reynolds looks like the guy that's going to step in. I'm not going to touch any other receiver. I'm not even going to touch Reynolds. It's Amon-Ra St. Brown is the only Detroit receiver that I am targeting. And it feels weird to say that, but yes, I like a Detroit receiver against a secondary for the Bears that is very overlooked besides Jalen Johnson. If Eddie Jackson's out, it just makes you like Amon-Ra St. Brown even more. Bryan Edwards, I just would like to see him be who everyone thought he was going to be in the offseason, and it's not really even his fault entirely. I mean, if you are an elite receiver, you're going to do what you can to become that guy that has to be targeted, but it's also Vegas just not using the receivers efficiently. Even Darren Waller has been used very inefficiently this year. But there's other value below 4K that I like more. Harris is a great example. Wilson, I only like Cedric Wilson because of his price. If CeeDee Lamb is out, you like Cedric Wilson a lot more. But in my opinion, he's not a huge must-get-to guy. Even Marquis Goodwin, I think, is a viable fantasy option this week. Saw 8 targets last week. He had that crazy game-winning touchdown. Look at his last 2 weeks, and he's had 2 receptions, 40-plus yards, which is crazy. He's a very good receiver, very fast, and if somebody needs to get the ball other than Darnell Mooney, it should be Marquis Goodwin. You have Cole Kmet there too, but Marquis Goodwin's going to be that second receiver if Robinson's out and if he's good to go, which it looks like he will be. So that would be it for receivers. Now, you can go to Dallas. Noah Brown and Malik Turner are both options there at 3K too. If you're playing 150 lines, sure, go for it. Especially if CeeDee Lamb's out, one of those 2 guys are definitely going to be in the game. And it's more than likely going to be Noah Brown. He's going to get in for those short receptions. But at the same time, you look at someone like Malik Brown, who goes week 9, 5 of 7, 33 with 2 touchdowns when they're getting blown out and looks like an elite receiver that game, but that was pretty much his entire season. So let's go to the tight ends now. Darren Waller, fantastic play, 6,400, so it is up there in price, which he always is. It's nothing out of the ordinary. Definitely someone that I'm going to play. Then Dalton Schultz at 5,300. You look at some of the numbers he's been putting up lately, and it's not promising from what it looked like in the beginning of the season, but it does have a very good matchup here against Vegas. CeeDee Lamb is in or CeeDee Lamb is out. Dalton Schultz is probably still going to get his targets in this game, regardless if Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb are both in. This is a very favorable matchup for Dalton Schultz, and these are my 2 guys that I will pay up for. TJ Hawkinson, I'm not going to really go for if he goes off against the Bears, and so be it. You saw what he did week 4 against the Bears. 4 receptions on 8 targets for 42 yards. And we've seen he's kind of been included a lot more lately, and that's without Jared Goff. Somewhat. I mean, he gets 1 target week 10 with Doyle, but I'd rather pay down for Dawson Knox. I'd rather pay down for Cole Kmet in that same game, and I'd pay down for Juwan Johnson. So TJ Hawkinson I'm probably staying away from. Dawson Knox I do like in this matchup. What he's been able to do this season as a tight end is amazing. Leaves the game here, 7.5 points. Comes back, 1 reception, 17 yards. Gets a little more comfortable. Plays the Colts in a game where they were getting just slaughtered by Jonathan Taylor and Jonathan Taylor alone. Gets you 14 fantasy points, 10 targets. Go back to earlier in the season, and his targets are there. The touchdowns are there, which is the most crucial thing. He still has like above 20% of the Bills' red zone targets, and he missed all those games, which is incredible. So Dawson Knox is definitely somebody else that I'm getting to at the tight end position. Cole Kmet, I think with Andy Dalton being the quarterback, is going to be more likable. Now with Jimmy Graham being used a little more, that does give a couple question marks there, but I think it's a very favorable matchup for Cole Kmet. Week 4 against Detroit, 3 targets, 6 yards. Doesn't scream anything, but we've seen lately those targets have gone up. I won't talk about last week. That was just something fun. But 3,700 Cole Kmet is definitely a viable option there as well. And then, like I mentioned, Juwan Johnson there at 2,600. Nothing crazy. He's not somebody like, oh my God, like how is he 2,600? But we've seen what he's done this year fantasy-wise. Gets 2 touchdowns one week. A touchdown week 4 against the Giants, and then should have gotten a touchdown last week against the Titans, but gets 5.6 fantasy points. Now, the reason we bring it up is Troutman is gone, and you look at Troutman's numbers that he's put up this season, especially lately, 6, 7, 6, 8 targets for a tight end. Those targets have to go somewhere. Juwan Johnson could be that guy. It's also why you like Smith and Harris. Those targets are going to go somewhere. Juwan Johnson, 2,600. If you're putting in 150 lines, should definitely have some Juwan Johnson there. Can make you easily afford some of those other star players. And then defenses, you have the Bills defense at 3,100, the Bears defense at 3,000. Hell, even the Saints defense at 2,900 for what the Bills have done lately are viable options. And then you can't forget the Cowboys defense. The numbers that defense has put up this season is ridiculous, and with how bad the Raiders have played, it's not a bad look. I would stay away from the Lions and Raiders. If I had to pick a defense, it would be Detroit just because of the Bears' offensive inefficiency, but then you also have to go on the same aspect that defense for Detroit might just get or the offense for Detroit might cause turnovers and give the Bears offense good field position. So I just stay with Saints as the cheapest defense to go to, but the price difference isn't crazy either. So hope this did help you guys, and I hope you did enjoy the video. If you did and you want to join us, the link for Discord will be in the description down below, so definitely check that out. Let me know in the comments who you guys are targeting, and we will see you in the next one.